This week, we're setting the popcorn time machine back to February 13th, 1998, putting on our best thriller jackets and rocking out. Step on in as we navigate engagements that were all just bullshit. And remember, we have the microphones and you don't, so you will listen to every damn word we have to say. And we are back, Popcorn Time Machine, our second episode. This week we are going into The Wedding Singer, a classic. You know him, you love him, Adam Sandler. But this was the first movie that really cemented Adam Sandler in that comedy sphere. This was the trajectory for the Sandler verse with it. You had before then, you had him in stuff like Airheads and Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore. But this was the one that really set him on that path. And interestingly enough, this is an anniversary year. This is 26 years of The Wedding Singer. This came out February 13th, 1998. So this little romantic comedy, very feel good. It starred obviously Adam Sandler, we talked about him, but it also included Drew Barrymore, Christine Taylor, and just a bunch of, Sandler's buddies. You had Alan Covert in there, you had Steve Buscemi making an appearance, you had a whole bunch of stuff, you had Kevin Nelson in there. So this is just, Adam Sandler's crew, and he's going to bring them with him. They're all involved in this piece. It's directed by Frank Carracci. He's also known for working with Sandler on Click and The Waterboy. So they had a very successful, busy year in that 97 because they were filming Waterboy and Wedding Singer probably around 96, 97, and they both dropped in 98. Interesting that they put them both out in the same year, but this did get pushed because they wanted this to be in that Valentine's Day style theater experience. So they ended up pushing it from 97 to 98 so that way they could hit that market. And then 98 with The Waterboy, they obviously released that because they wanted to be associated with football. But we are talking about The Wedding Singer today, so let's dive in.
You're the wedding singer.
Yeah. How you doing? I'm Robbie.
I'm Julia.
That's what we're going to be diving into today. And obviously I can't do this alone. So with us in the time machine today, we have Jimmy.
Yo.
We have Diaz.
Yeah.
We have Kevin.
Hello again.
And we have Sil.
What is good?
So we have the whole crew here taking this movie from 98, zapping it fast forward to 2024 where we can dissect and talk about this movie. What worked for it? What didn't work for it? What would we change? All kinds of good stuff. But before we do get into that, I just wanted to thank everybody for listening along and joining us on this new journey of ours. If you are not following us on any of our socials right now, that'd be a good time to pull those up. So head over to Instagram. You can follow us at Popcorn Time Machine Pod. And if you go over to our YouTube page, you can see our videos there too. We are not in video format yet. That might be something we move towards in the future, but we do upload all of our episodes there. So if you are listening there or on just Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whichever, be sure you're subscribing, liking, and giving us those little 5-star reviews because they do go a long way when it comes to those crafty little algorithms. So let's get into this. So real talk. Let's talk about this movie before we just kind of fully jump into it, right? What did we think about this movie? Just quick little brief of, what you thought about it. Do you remember the first time you saw it? Where does it sort of, does it stick out to you in any way? So let's kind of go around the horn real quick before we jump in. So Jim, what'd you think of this, The Wedding Singer?
This has always been one of my favorite movies. I like how accurate it is for the 80s. I love how, you've got even like in the beginning of the movie where you see the very first wedding dress, it's like that like lace, the wife's got the lace gloves. You see, what's her name? Christine Taylor in the spandex with the tights underneath, cooking breakfast with the headband. I just love how for 85, how pretty accurate it is clothing wise. I love the soundtrack. And all in all, it's a really good, just quality film. I love it's got a really good, wholehearted feeling. And it's always just been one of my favorites as far as Sandler goes.
Yeah. Speaking of soundtracks, that's a little fact I got for once we get into that segment, but it's definitely very accurate. And it's very funny that our second episode takes place the same year that our first episode did when we talked about Back to the Future. So Diaz, what'd you think about this one?
Oh, I loved it. Listen, this is one of the first comedies and first movies. You pay attention so much to the background characters in this. Everyone is funny in this movie, from one little scene with one little kid to the old man in the back. to the drummer. If you look at the drummer in the band, he looks like he's 90. Like there's little things that are just hilarious in this that you don't pay attention to. There's the one-liners from everyone. The way the music just goes perfect. This is the 80s. It's just hilarious to me.
Yeah, everybody in this movie, those side characters are just, out of this world. They're just smashing home runs every time they set up to bat.
Yeah,
so.
just all of them. Preview for later when we get into that. I recasted a lot of this movie. We're gonna have fun with mine.
All right, I can't wait for that. Kevin, Wedding Singer, what are we thinking?
Oh, it's a fun one. It's Adam Sandler, right? So it's not supposed to be deep. I mean, predictable storyline from a mile away, but who cares? And who doesn't like to make fun of the 80s, right? I mean, and that's coming from someone that owned parachute pants and skinny ties. They did a great job of immersing you into the 80s. And although it's an Adam Sandler film, I think in this he doesn't play as much of that man-child role that he does in some. So that's a plus. So I mean, it's almost, as we say, this is one of those guilty pleasure things because you really shouldn't enjoy a rom-com. But I think this is pretty fun to watch.
Yeah. And Sil, have you seen this movie before? Because I know one of the fun things about this podcast is that we all have such different connections to these movies. Some of we've seen in theaters, some of them we've seen because they were just on the VHS shelf growing up, and then some we just may have missed. So have you seen this one previously, or where's this?
Dude, I love that question. Well, the first time I watched The Wedding Singer was actually last year. Last year, I got married last year, and this is one of my wife's favorite movie. Like I actually watched it with her recently again, and I don't know, she could quote the entire movie. She loves it. It's a big part of her life, and I'm just happy that I got to enjoy it again. I'll be honest, the first time I watched it, I'm like, all right, this is just another old movie. But rewatching and taking the time to take it all in, I love this movie. It's hilarious. It's I think everybody kind of hit it on the head, and it's simple. It's just everybody. It's so intentional with the little jokes, the little puns, the little one-liners, and I had a blast, and yeah, loved it.
Yeah, this is just this. I feel like is one of the Adam Sandler movies that personally I haven't gone back to as often as I have the other ones. And I don't know why, because as we've rewatched this movie getting ready for this episode, I just really fell back in love with it. But this definitely was made because Adam Sandler just loves to sing. He's not a great singer, but he liked doing it. I used to listen to a lot of Adam Sandler's comedy CDs when he did, Ode to My Car and like the little skits and stuff like that. And this was him taking that aspect of his pre-movie star life and trying to bring it in, I think. And to Kevin's point, this was a good switch from that man-child character that he's played previously when he led up to this with Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. This guy's, at least got a job. He might be living in his sister's basement, but he's got a job. He's in a committed relationship at the time, and I don't know. I like the switch up of him. This definitely was his sort of coming out. This was like the first time any of his movies made over $100 million, but he was on that trajectory where Billy Madison made like 25 million. Gilmore almost doubled that with 41, and then he did Bulletproof, and that did okay. But this was his first time breaking that $100 million mark. And after that, he's been pretty consistently in that $150, $200 million range. If you put Sandler in a movie, people are going to show up. So I do like that aspect of it. So Jimmy, why don't you are our IMDb. Let's kind of go into the history of this movie's cast and crew and stuff like that before we really dissect it.
Yeah, I feel like once you see any co-star in an Adam Sandler film, they'll kind of all just pop up in his movies years down the road. And obviously, I think this is him and Drew Barrymore's first, I think, co-starring gig together. And they just, I can see why. He just seems to, whoever he works with, he seems to have a really good chemistry with. And him and Drew Barrymore are so good together. And then you got his best friend, Sammy, the limo driver, Alan Covert, who's been in countless movies with him, even on, the CDs with Stan and Judy's Kid. And I forgot what his first CD was. But and then you got in The Wedding, you also have as one of the groomsmen, Peter Dante, who plays Dante and Grandma's Boy, who's always, selling main character, who's also Alan Covert, weed. And then Steve Buscemi, constantly has been in Adam Sandler flicks, from Big Daddy, Billy Madison. Interesting enough, though, like a little behind the scenes, uncredited edit or writing wise, was Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia. Carrie Fisher helped write the script with a very new and up and coming guy that we would know, who's kind of shaped our comedies growing up, with Judd Apatow. This is the Adam Sandler, Judd Apatow, and Carrie Fisher uncredited. Didn't get credit for it, but they helped write the script. And director Frank Caroci came to Carrie Fisher to polish up the script, and she spent 6 months on it.
Yeah, she did a lot of that stuff behind the scenes for a lot of different movies, right?
Yep. And she, it was her mission to add heart and strength and dimension to Drew Barrymore's character, Julia.
Well, you got to remember, whenever you think of Drew Barrymore, you think of Princess Leia. So,
Yeah, right. And so no, just really cool. I love when, we see it time and time again with, a lot of collaborations and stuff. I've always liked how Sandler's just kind of used, I wouldn't call them no-namers, but they always, like Alan Covert, Peter Dante, have always popped up in his movies. Even in Happy Gilmore, Alan Covert plays the homeless guy that he gives the caddy job to. Peter Dante plays the quarterback in Waterboy. Then they're gay couple in Big Daddy. They're always just. I love how he uses his guys, and obviously he uses SNL friends too, like Spade and Rob Schneider, Kevin James. I know he's not SNL, but he kind of filled that void, I think, for like Chris Farley.
And R.I.P. Farley, man.
Yeah, so
R.I.P.
it seems to me whenever someone works with Sandler, they just love working with him. Jennifer Aniston loves working with him.
Drew.
Others.
This was the kickstart of their like romantic trilogy.
Yeah, that's what I think this is the first film they did together, and they've got, you can really see the friendship there. I think behind the scenes, I think they've got just great chemistry. And even for like the acting chops from Sandler, like it's not like like Kev said, it's not one of those man-child. Robbie Hart's got a little bit of depth, and he's kind of a sad character throughout the whole film. And it's good to see Adam Sandler kind of, tap into that a little bit early on, especially coming off of films like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore. And it still has that lovable like humor, like, man-child humor. And I love it. It's a great film. And those are some of those facts.
Nice. Yeah, that was the Carrie Fisher one was really interesting to me too, because I feel like at that time she was trying to become a screenwriter, so she was doing as many of these punch-up jobs as she could get her hands onto just to get some experience. So that was a really interesting note there. Let's head over to our what I like to refer to as our resident factician. Kevin loves scouring the internet for all these random little tidbits that let's call it movie history. So what did you unturn under the rocks of the Wedding Singer?
I think the main backstory to this, and I think a couple of people have mentioned it, is the first time that they worked together, Drew and Adam. And the backstory to that is that it was in the late 90s when Drew was trying to get back into her acting career. If you know her story, she took the typical child star path and party child girl of the 80s, and then had some rough times. And around this time, she was trying to get back into more prominent roles, and she had just started a production company called Flower Films. And I don't know if it was a premonition or whatever, but she said she was convinced that for some reason her and Adam were supposed to do a movie together. Hadn't worked together, didn't know each other, and she just reached out to him and convinced him to meet her. She met him at a diner. He, at the time, had a Happy Madison production company, and she was telling him that, look, we need to do a movie together. It's just supposed to be. She said she wanted to create this new modern Hepburn, Tracy, old Hollywood couple dynamic. And so he agreed to it. She sent him a couple scripts. She never heard back from him. And then when he came across, so when he was working this idea about the Wedding Singer concept, he sent it to her. They got together, and then that's how it happened. So it was all because of her reaching out to him. So that's how they actually started working together. And again, I think they went on to do 3 now, right? They did 50 First Dates and Blended, I think, were the other two they did.
Yeah.
Blended doesn't get enough love, but 50 First Dates is an amazing movie as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely nailed it.
And so a couple of the small things, we mentioned that Adam Sandler loves to sing. I mean, who doesn't remember the famous Turkey song?
I forgot about that one. Yep.
Wow, I did forget about that.
Yep.
Or Sloppy Joe's.
Oh, the lunch lady. no surprise, he wrote, the "Somebody Kill Me," which, lyrical genius, if you ask me. And then obviously the "Grow Old with You." And interesting enough about that song, the song that he sings, in the final scenes, is he wasn't allowed to play that for Drew at all. So that her reaction to that when they filmed the final scene was the first time she had ever heard the song.
And that's her reaction is beautiful. Beautiful.
So another just smaller but interesting thing is everybody loves the rapping granny.
Oh,
The actress who played.
Oh, yeah.
The actress who played her, I think it's Ellen Albertini Dow, I think was her name. She was 84 when she did that. They said she had no concept of what rap music was, and she took it on and learned the whole thing. And then she went on to live to be 101.
Wow.
She died in 2015.
What a trooper.
And her IMDb, she's got 109 movies to her credit. And I guess she was a movie coach for a long time and then took her first part herself in 1985 and then went from there. And like I said, 109 movies. I mean, I think, that's a character that you don't find in many movies, right? So there's a lot of characters in this that we'll talk about, but they've just they spiced this movie or seeded this movie with a whole bunch of pretty good characters for a pretty light, fun movie.
So 109 movies, living to 101 years old. She did a movie a year? Respect.
Started at age 1.
or who knows how many she did a year, but
yeah, I mean, she must have been pushing them out then at that point.
I mean, silent movies were 40 minutes long?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's quite a resume. Respect. She's still one of my favorite parts of the movie for sure.
Yeah. So a couple little notes that I had found too, and I didn't notice these until I was watching some, different YouTube channels and stuff like that. And I don't know how many of you know this person, but comedian Brian Posehn. Does anybody know who?
That name sounds familiar.
He's like the big
comedy guy.
Yeah, he's like the big burly bearded kind of comedian.
Oh yeah.
He's one of the mutants in Table 9.
Yeah, with no beard, he's got no hair, so it's very easy to miss him. But yeah, that was one. And funny enough too, the success of this translated into a musical adaptation, and it was kind of more well received than the movie, and it got 6 Tony Award nominations for the actual theater play of it. And then the other 2 notes I had, Jimmy, you mentioned the soundtrack and how perfect this thing was. The soundtrack went double platinum. Soundtracks just don't do that. Movie soundtracks don't do that, and this one did, and it did so well that it garnered them to have the volume 2, which included some of Sandler's songs.
It was also the number 1 album in Australia that year.
And then I think one of you had mentioned Chris Farley as one point too, and he was actually, Sandler was really trying to get Farley in this movie. He was supposed to cameo at the end of this film as the ticket agent, but New Line just saw him as too much of a liability because of his, very well-known, well-documented drug problems. But Sandler tried his best to get him in, and they completely vetoed that. And then unfortunately, Farley died from a drug overdose just a month and a half before this movie premiered, because he died in that December.
Oh, wow.
In 97.
So he was supposed to be the Flock of Seagulls guy.
Yes. Which who knows how that would have went. But yeah, those were some fun little interesting notes. Did anybody have any other little tidbits of background movie history stuff on this, or should we dive right into our Stop It segment?
There's one small thing that most people probably know, but I found it was interesting because this part was so iconic to the movie that jacket she wears through the entire movie that makes her character wasn't part of the script or part of the wardrobe. The director saw her wearing it. It was her own jacket, and just saw her wearing it one day and said, "I want you to wear that in the film."
One of mine it was pretty funny when, Linda comes back the second time, and when she answers the door to Julia, she's wearing a Van Halen t-shirt, and Robbie says, "Take that Van Halen t-shirt off before you jinx the band," and they break up. Well, David Lee Roth left that year in 85.
Please get out of my Van Halen t-shirt before you jinx the band and they break up.
I did see that, and I saw a real deep dive on that one. And based off of when the wedding was in the movie, if this was set in that time, he would have actually already have left the band in that week or month or so. So it was sort of a miscue on the date based off of the wedding date. And when he says that, at that point, David Lee Roth had already left, but just a little overlook.
in the missed cue department, then the older couple that's celebrating their 50th anniversary, the woman he's teaching to sing the song, on their wall in their house, it has their wedding picture and it says 1948. Well, that would have been 50th year anniversary for the year the film was actually made, but not for the 80s when it was set.
Nice.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, they dropped some.
I love movie mistakes.
Yeah, script supervisor dropped the ball on that one. All right, let's get into our segments here. So we have our Stop It segment. So we're talking the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, obviously, we're all just going to kind of pick one scene each that we really enjoyed, that really stuck out to us, that we had to kind of replay. The bad, well, you guessed it. It's pretty much the exact opposite of that. And then the ugly is just one scene or one thing from this movie that just doesn't quite hold up over time. You could say that it aged like fine milk. But let's get into these goods real quick. So, Sil, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. What was your good, what was your number one scene that was just like, wow, I got to rewatch this one?
When you put it like, wow, I got to rewatch this. I mean, I watched the granny rap at least 4 times. And I mean, it might have not made the movie, but bro, it was so funny. But yeah, that was one of the parts I enjoy a lot about the movie.
I said hip hop, I hip it to the hip hop. You don't stop the rock to the bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie the beat.
I also, one of my favorite characters is Sammy on this movie. I think Alan Culver plays just a phenomenal role. I do enjoy secondary characters a lot. And just his lines are just hilarious when he is in the limo trying to running around the cones and whatever. And they're just giving him shit like, oh, you got to be better,
shoving the mannequins in the back.
Yeah, dude. And then
the cones.
Towards the end, that line is so come on, man, give me a fucking break.
Those could have been her wedding guests.
You hit 2 cones. Those could have been people. Those could have been guests at her wedding. They were cones.
I lost it. They're so funny. It's so simple, and it's so it says so much. There we go. Come on.
And then he's so serious about it when he gets back to the house later. He leans over and he says, "I did get the job, though, right?"
Right.
He switches it up.
I love it. Their relationship. Robbie and Sammy. It's they're so different, but they're kind of in the same boat, and it's hilarious. I enjoy that.
Yeah, you do buy in. You believe that chemistry right there, and obviously it ties into the fact that yes, off screen there is chemistry. They are friends, but that works perfectly. That makes it. So, Kevin, what's your good stop it scene for this movie?
It's hard in this movie to pick one, but it's got to be the first gig back wedding speech.
It's funny. Some of us will never ever find true love. Take for instance me, and I'm pretty sure that guy right there, and that lady with the sideburns, and basically everybody at table 9.
Yeah,
the mutants at table 9.
I guess I'd have to pick that one if I have to narrow it down.
The whole love sticks.
Yeah.
No stinks.
Holiday.
Yeah, that one is just. I can't believe he came back already. And then back to Sil's point of Alan Cohart just playing good. It's I don't know why he did it either. The scene previously, he was the one telling him to get back out there.
Exactly.
Diaz, what do you got for your good stop it?
Dude, honestly, my good stop it is what the movie was about, man. The scene on the plane with the damn song, bro. When he sung that song to her, I felt like the biggest softie in the world. I got teary-eyed, man.
I'll miss you, kiss you, give you my coat when you are cold. Need you, feed you, even let you hold the remote control.
When he was singing to Julia, I was like, yo, dude, that's love right there. I want to find that. When I first saw this, I was like, yo, I want that. I want that type of love with Billy Idol on a plane and singing in first class. That's what did it for me. I love that scene.
First class.
At the end of the movie.
The hot towel in his shirt.
And no, he gives it back to her.
He puts it on top of the other ones.
I love in that scene where he's telling the love story in first class and everyone's just gathered around and Billy Idol's just like leaning over the seat and just like really into it.
I love that whole scene on the plane. And dude, how many times did they show the plane in the air? Like for no reason.
I know.
Yep. They kept cutting back to it to like, I think try and tell us it's on different planes or something. I'm like, okay, I get it.
And I think Julia's reading Rolling Stone, and I think isn't Billy Idol on the cover?
Yeah.
And that whole and a part of that scene too, that the payoff where they had the conversation earlier about how Robbie couldn't, his girlfriend wouldn't give him the window seat or whatever, and then because Glenn, Glenn, I can't do it. They, the little carts always hit me, but you're smaller. She gets whacked in the arm by the drink.
Dude, when Glenn says, "You know what, honey, it's okay. You can lean over me." Such a gentleman. I love that scene, bro. Just that ending was the good for me.
Yeah. Jimmy, what's your good scene?
Oh, my absolute favorite scene is another Adam Sandler alum, John Lovitz trying out Ladies' Night.
That's it. Yep.
Sophisticated mama.
Oh, yes, it's ladies' night, and the feeling's right. Oh, yes, it's ladies' night. Oh, what a night. Oh, yes, it's ladies' night.
Yeah. He's losing his mind, and I'm reaping all the benefits. Like, that's, I love John Lovitz. He's so funny. Yeah, that's my absolute stop it scene.
And you find a DJ with moves like this.
Good luck finding a DJ who can move and shake like this.
Me to get a DJ.
Single baby. Yeah, I'm glad that you guys all took all of the other ones I had because my number one is still on the board. My number one scene, and what a way to kickstart this movie with Steve Buscemi and his best man toast. Harold would never beat up his landlord.
Remember that time in Puerto Rico when we picked up those two, well, I guess they were prostitutes, but I don't remember paying.
Okay, how about that? How about that? Yeah, what?
Terrific.
Huh? I'm a person too, Pop, goddammit. I'm a person too.
You're a moron.
Greatest guitar in the world, Pop.
That dude went to the blackjack table and hit 21 every single time he hit a line. He was just absolutely on fire. Best man, the better man. He just
I do love how it comes full circle in the end, and he's singing "True" by Spandau Ballet at the end of the movie, and
dude, he yells, "They're gonna be divorced in a year."
Like you can't start the movie better than that. And what I really liked about it is we talked about it earlier with Adam Sandler's departure of the man-child. You open this movie with such a crazy, chaotic, comedic, jump start, and it's not Sandler. He's still calm, cool, and collect, but you have that style of comedy, and you don't have to like make his character that goofy, whack job wild card. Just give that to Buscemi and his crazy eyes and weird mustache.
So, but what caps that scene off too is so he makes the crazy drunk brother best man speech, and then Adam Sandler, Robbie steps in and saves the day by kind of filling in for the speech and kind of making up for it, and like he kind of saves the day. And then they pan over to Buscemi, who's kind of drunk and teary eyed, and he says, "Oh, he is a good wedding singer."
Yeah. It was just like a great intro, and I feel bad because I feel like last week I also picked the intro for one of my stop-its, but it's you could go so wrong on opening scenes, and this just did everything
Nick,
right.
More when George is singing, he's like, "Ooh, I like her."
Yep. Well, those were the goods for us, and I'm glad that we all had very different opinions. So let's just get into the bads now. So we'll just kind of go around the clock again. Sil, bad, stop it. What was one of your bad moments in this that kind of stuck out?
Bad. I don't think anything was bad. I mean, there were some bad scenes. I feel a little bad because the airplane scene to me, while it was like so romantic and like, touchy and whatever, I feel like they threw order out of the board. Like, I don't know. It felt like choppy, and it felt like it wasn't as smooth as it could have been. And it was like they were trying too hard. It doesn't take away from being a really, really awesome scene. I think what got me the most was the intro. The intro is hilarious, right? All the scenes are just fun. Like, it's hilarious. It's setting up the movie by itself. But then all the cuts to the text, they get so overwhelming and intense. And then when you're like a minute 5, there's like 37 cut to black to text and back to the show. And then back to, and you don't even know what's happening. I don't know if you all, like, if you go back, I don't want to ruin the movie, but like, pay attention. You're going to see at least 35 text with the black background before the movie actually starts. And you're like, dude, let me just enjoy what the fuck people are doing.
Yeah.
That got me. That was bad. But I mean, that's editing, and maybe people were showcasing like the cool fonts and I don't know, animation back then, right? But being a critic right now is just a little different. And then that's why the airplane cut scene got me too. And I'm like, no fucking way, they're doing it again at the end.
It's the same shot.
Same shot. Don't. It's gonna be so fun.
You don't have the budget to just pay the guy to shoot different airplanes.
Jesus. Oh man, that was like bad. Very hard.
Yeah, and even dissecting a good movie, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be like maybe a bad scene, but like maybe just something doesn't make sense, or like like you were saying, those jump cuts just a little weird, you know. But I that airplane, I thought about that every time I watch it. It just cuts back to the same like little sound, and then the airplane, the little sound, the airplane. And I get it; they're trying to make it like they're on different planes, but you know, we know they're not, so it's a little funky there. But Kevin, what was one of your stop it's bad?
There's a scene where right after he gets invited to her engagement party, and he goes to his sister's house because I guess he's supposed to babysit. And so he gets there and like sees his sister, and then goes inside. That's where the two kids are like, "Hey, you're having a nervous breakdown." The whole scene's kind of short, and it doesn't really make sense. And then after the kids give him the business, his brother-in-law Andy, I guess, calls him like over and says, "Hey, this is probably for the best." And then he kind of gets into this quick, weird conversation about, it's for the best anyways. He's like, "Oh, your sister." And he starts telling him all these weird things about her doing like exotic dancing and something about nipples. And
I mean, if it's a special occasion, she might do this exotic dance for me.
What?
And sometimes she might, work with my nipples a little bit.
All right, enough. Go out. I'll take care of the kids.
And then it kind of like ends in talking about like a quick cut. It like goes from right there to him going into the engagement party. And you're almost like, wait, what? That scene didn't finish, and what was the purpose of it? I don't know if it was bad editing but that scene like added nothing and was kind of weird, and I don't know why it was there.
Well, to kind of piggyback off that too, doesn't he live with his sister and brother-in-law? So why is he knocking on the door as if he's coming? I mean, yeah, he could be coming from somewhere else, but it's like he lives. It's like he's leaving his house.
That's a very good point. That's another movie mistake.
Yeah. Before we go to Diaz's, one thing, I have the movie in the background, and I just noticed they had the car testing cone scene, blah, blah, blah. The license plate, I finally caught it. The license plate of the limo driver is IMKINKE. I'm kinky.
Fantastic.
Just perfect fit for his character. Diaz, bad scenes or bad moments in scenes. What do you got for this movie?
Honestly, it's a funny moment, but stop it. There's no way they would have let him keep singing as a depressed wedding singer. I would have cut him off halfway through. Holiday, celebrate. You can't be that depressed at a wedding. Plus, as someone that got married, you threaten me with the microphone wire. You're getting fucked up at the wedding. So that would be my stopping moment. As funny as it was, you can't do that.
Yeah,
they got a little cringy there. It's like, bro, get him off. Get him off.
Yeah. And I'll let Jimmy go, and then I'm going to kind of piggyback off your thought as well. So Jimmy, what do you got for your bad scenes?
So my bad scene is like when I was 12, I would have thought this was really funny, but I rewatched it like yesterday, and I was like, oh, it's just dumb. It's just stupid humor. Is when they're all at the bar mitzvah and they're slow dancing and everyone's grabbing each other's butts, like, and then the old lady sitting down is just squeezing someone's like just ass, just like, and just sitting there squeezing it. And when I was like 12, I would have thought that was super funny. And then as I got older, I'm like, well, there's Sandler being Sandler, like just that classic man-child humor.
Like we mentioned in the last podcast, this movie wouldn't stand up well to today's norms. There's a bunch of things you could point out here that like are kind of cringy.
Oh yeah, especially once you get to the Glenn side of things. But so my bad scene, I had a couple notes on these, so I'll just kind of piggyback off of Diaz's point where the whole love stinks thing, we all love that scene, but there is no chance that the band is going to play along with him. Like they're not going to learn love stinks and ruin their careers and their future jobs from this wedding, because you're going to have a very big come up to get hired at a wedding as a wedding singer if at your previous wedding you and the whole band played Love Stinks with audience participation and got punched out by the bride's dad. Yeah. That's just, the band's not going along with that. They're not be like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's play Love Stinks at the wedding.
That goes in your LinkedIn.
You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, George was loyal, but I don't know if George was that loyal.
But like they played it. The drummer was playing, the guitarist was playing. Everyone learned that song and they played it. Yeah, that was like, I'll kind of put that into yours as well. But I guess the other scene that I saw that was like kind of bad, that I was like, this probably, I don't know if I just buy it. It was the whole practicing of the first kiss on Robbie. Like, you're just cheating on your fiance, like just for educational purposes. I don't know.
Exactly.
I didn't buy that.
That was going to be my ugly. That was going to be my age like fine milk. That cannot happen.
Yeah, no. But yeah, so that was my bad stuff. So let's get into the ugly stuff that just didn't really hold up to us over time. So we'll just kind of let's reverse order a little bit. I'll give you mine real quick, and then we'll go down the horn. So my ugly aged like fine milk kind of deal is just sort of the whole idea of a wedding singer. That's not really a thing anymore. It's DJs. Every wedding I go to is now DJs. Or so band. This profession is sort of defunct at this point, but that's kind of what aged poorly for me. But Jimmy, what'd you have for the ugly?
The ugly for me, and just nothing too bad. It's just the character of Glenn Guglia. He's just such a piece of shit, and openly cheats, brags to Robbie about him working in New York and working late, so he doesn't have to really be involved with her, or he can get away with it. He's a scumbag. I mean, even just letting her not get the window seat, just little things like that. He's just such a scumbag, and he's okay with it. Like, he's totally, when Julia's sick at the bar and her cousin takes her to the bathroom to go throw up, and it's just Robbie and Glenn, and he's just creepily checking out the waitresses and bragging to Robbie that it's a good piece of meat. Glenn was a aged like fine, like he's just a shitbag villain, but good villain, but shitbag.
Yeah, they definitely didn't pull any punches on his character. They let you know exactly how shitty he is.
Like a classic 80s Wall Street yuppie.
Cheetah praying underwear.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yes.
Dude, Biff would have been his personal assistant.
Yeah. Yep.
That's hilarious.
Diaz, what do you got for the ugly?
To piggyback off your stop it, the whole cheating on your fiance in the kitchen in your house in the morning to try a kiss. What was that?
Yep. Both cheaters in the relationship, it seems.
Now. That's crazy to me. Not only that, for our younger viewers, there's adult films that start out just like that. We need someone to help practice this on, and that's how things take a turn. And then it has like the Disney music in the background. the when they make the kiss, like it's all lovey dovey. They just cheated. She just cheated.
Help me load the washer.
Well, that score kind of gives you a hint for
the song.
Yeah, kind of gives you that hint that's the.
But that scene is
but I get what you're saying.
Ridiculous to me, and I love the loviness of this movie, but that can't happen. That can't happen.
Kevin, ugly. What do you got?
What was with the meatball scene? What like?
Oh my god!
Like what? I don't.
Dude, why?
Why? What did that? Where is that in the storyline? Which maybe they were just trying to indicate like that she's kind of not all there. But not only she puts the meatballs in there, she makes him take a bite, and then when he's going to leave, she grabs his hands like to say goodbye, and she's squishing the meatballs. I just
think that's Robbie being a good guy. He's not going to make an old lady pay for singing lessons, but I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, but those meatballs always look super good every time I see that scene.
No, listen, those meatballs aren't good. First of all, if they were good meatballs, they would have burned his hands. Those are cold, dry meatballs. There was no sauce on his hands either. That's disgusting.
You heard the sauce.
That was meatball squishing.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh God, yeah. I like to watch your face when you enjoy them. Did not need to be there. I agree with that, Kevin.
Too much.
Oh God. So why don't you finish us on the stop it and hit us with the last ugly?
I think there's ugly enough, but I'm gonna throw a fashion ugly here. Why is Julia wearing combat boots for the whole movie?
She does.
This bitch is on combat boots everywhere. Yeah,
was that an 80s thing or like a 90s?
Did you go to they were in a nightclub? And I got to throw up fucking Mortal Kombat front flip on top of the table. I'll be right back. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I mean, you guys told I'm like scraping the bottom of the pan here.
No, not for nothing. Sliv, you're right on that note because she's a waitress too, and she's wearing boots as a waitress.
Yeah, she's ready, bro. She's ready to go at any time. I mean, I told the same thing to my wife. She's like, it's just who she is. I'm like, all right, whatever.
But that does make sense too, because that's something else that we sort of missed out where everyone is so 80s in this movie. She does not look like that. She looks like 90s. Like she's got the boots, which is like a 90s thing. She's got that little like grungy haircut, which is like super 90s. I don't think that was really a big 80s haircut.
She would have had leg warmers if it was the 80s.
Yeah, so it does seem like her character is sort of like maybe we already put her in the time machine and brought her to a different year. I don't know.
There we go. That's what I was saying.
All right. What will we add to this thing? Montage madness, music, action sequence, sex scenes, slow motion sweat, or a makeover. Does any of these make this movie better or funnier? Jimmy, anything? Did any of these stand out that could be added?
No, I think it's perfect. Like back-to-back weeks of like nothing I'd really change. I love the soundtrack. I love every scene that pops up is a new 80s song or a different, and I love it. I wouldn't change a thing. I really like it. I thought they did a really, obviously, yes, like Drew Barrymore does seem, now that I think about it, a little out of the decade or out of the times with how she's dressed. But overall, I mean, that's just nitpicking. I think it's a great film for what it is. So I wouldn't change a thing. No.
Now, Diaz, all of these are quintessential to those 80s and 90s movies. So is there any place for one of these in this movie for you?
Oh, yes. It's just missing one montage. When he starts realizing how much he likes Julia, there was a chance for a cutaway scene of him having I don't want to say like having a sex scene, but like having a fantasy with her with the perfect 80s song in the background. I want to know what love is. I want you to show. He could have fantasized about Julia in some awkward, stupid 80s fantasy in his head, and it would have been perfect. And then Sammy could have been like, "You're right there, buddy?" And he could have been like, yeah, I'm fine. They could have had a fantasy moment of some stupid ridiculousness, and it would have just added a little bit more comedic to it, like some random, like I said, with that song playing, just that part of the song too. I want to know what love is.
Now, I'm very curious if that was thought about, and if it was, I'm curious if they decided not to because of the parallels that would be to the Happy Gilmore ones, right? Where he's like imagining grandma winning the lottery or whatever. And then they have Shooter come and give her, making out when it turns bad. But that same thing. Yes, I agree. That would have been a perfect moment.
Just that song would have been perfect in this movie for no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it came out in 84, so it would have been, a year before. So yeah.
Kevin, anything that you would add from that list?
Yeah, the only thing that I would have added, if they could have pulled it off, was to pull in even more 80s music icons, like throughout the film or maybe in the final scene, but pulling in like Cyndi Lauper, Pat Benatar, and at some point in the movie, George runs into Culture Club or Boy George.
It's true.
Yeah, that was a missed opportunity to not have that. Sil, anything you'd add from this list?
Yeah, so touching based on what Dia said. So apparently Adam Sandler said he didn't want any sex scenes in the movie. It was like a decision made by himself. He said he didn't want to. And he got an interview and Conan O'Brien. He said the main reason for not having a sex scene is I'm not good at it. Sorry, when I was pretty young, I was like, better. The older I get, the better I get, and still not good. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but whatever. That's interesting. They never, but I don't think I'm with Jimmy. I don't think we have to add a lot of things here to this movie, but I would have liked for Sammy to, instead of taking the Michael Jackson glove right away, he would have done some move That would have been hilarious.
A little
It would've been
spin.
Like, yeah, it would have been like, no, watch this. The glove stays. And he just like busts him. That'd be so funny.
I do love when Sammy teaches the old man to moonwalk in the bar.
The drunk guy in the bar.
Oh my God. The drunk
As
guy
you
in
leave
the
and
bar.
you leave and Sammy's got his whole jacket on and everything, and then
He does.
scene, they come back in. Now the drunk guy's wearing the jacket and he's teaching him to moonwalk across the bar.
Dude.
I'll play off a little bit of what you were talking about. Sex scene. I wanted like a really bad, non-graphic, but bad montage of like one night stand hookups of Robbie. Like when he was in that depressed rebellion. I would have extended that like rebellious phase where we were at that bar area and put like really bad hookups in there to like, and then it's like, oh, okay, no, the right answer is right there. You know, at that point, he thought that Julia was a lost cause. You know, she's happy. He just went to her house and saw her, you know, appearing all happy, looking in the mirror in her dress. And he just goes on this terrible bender of like
with all the mutants from Table 9.
The mutants at Table 9, you know, you could just ridiculousness.
And it becomes a little mini hangover movie within a movie.
Yes. So you could have extended it a little bit. I know that's not really this style, but I think it would have fit and would have been funny. What if we are going to pick or try to do our best to pick a moment from this movie and imagine what if, you know, this happened? How would this play out differently? How would the movie go and so forth? So Sil, we'll start with you and we'll kind of go backwards again. Was there a moment in this that you thought like, well, what if this happened? And how would it change the trajectory of this movie?
I think maybe landing the plane. What if they would have not done the whole thing in the movie and the plane and they actually do it in Vegas? That would have been a cool different.
That would have been good.
Twist. Yeah. But nothing.
Like you had to find her there.
Right. She's in a plane to Vegas. I'm not going to be able to find her. Oh, hold on. Let me ride the same plane as her. What? But
yeah. Convenient.
Yeah. That was easier than looking her in Vegas, I guess. But
yeah.
What if like they land and they had to like just like, I don't know. Yeah. It would have added like 20 more minutes to the movie. Maybe.
Yeah.
And what if?
That was a pretty convenient part. Kevin, what if? Did you find any moments in this movie that, you know, maybe could have gone differently or anything like that?
Well, I guess based on the notion that the storyline was very predictable, which is fine. Nobody cares. That's not why you're in this movie. But what if the story ends where something just prevents them from getting together? And the movie ends with, it was a nice try, but she goes her way and he goes his. She marries Glenn or whatever, and she becomes Julia Gulia.
Gulia. Julia's last name is gonna be Gulia. Julia Gulia. That's funny.
Why is that funny?
I don't know.
and he goes off and, I don't know, gets back with Linda or whatever the case may be. But because you're so convinced almost from the beginning that you know the outcome, and then they slap you in the face at the end, and it's like, nope.
Mm-hmm. Diaz, any what ifs on this?
What if they actually both married who they were supposed to marry? What would happen? Like, what if he ended up with Linda and she ended up with Glenn? I think if that happened, they still will end up. I don't know what it is about this movie. It made me a softie. I believed in them both. Like, I feel like if they married the significant others they were supposed to marry, they would have stayed friends because they were in that small little town. I think they would have ended up cheating on each other's significant others and ended up together. I think, what if it just delayed it? What if this happened, not in the 80s was their marriage, and in the 90s was their divorce, and they get married in the 90s? That's my what if.
I like that one. Jimmy, what if? Anything in this movie? I know this is a little bit of a tougher category.
Yeah, this would have probably shortened the movie a little bit, but what if, like, when Robbie was walking down the street and he sees Julia in the window, and when Julia's, saying, Mrs. Robbie Hart in the mirror, and then she caught Robbie's eye before, Robbie just thinks she's just happy in her wedding dress. Like, what if she found him and she raced down the stairs and they like embraced each other and got together then, and told each other how they felt? I think that would have been the closest thing to my what if.
Well, if he had pulled a George McFly and climbed the tree, he would have seen she was talking to the mirror.
You're right.
That would have been a really funny 80s reference too. If Robbie fell out of the tree and got hit by a car or something.
He had binoculars.
Yeah, that would have been like a really funny reference. I don't know how it would work in this dynamic, but like that would have been a fun like 80s reference, I guess.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly how this would have gone, but my what if Glenn walked in 5 minutes earlier while him and Julia were kissing?
Hey, I kissed her, but it didn't mean anything. I just brought her the jacket.
Kissed who?
Oh, me.
Who hasn't?
Yeah, it probably would have interrupted the flow of the story, but I bet there's some story beats there that could have come out, because you could have played on the fact that Glenn is mad that she's cheating, but all he does is cheat, and it's just like he puts her through all this grief for no reason. I think the story still could have gone the way it had, but maybe had that little extra beat in there of just ironic comedy. But again, this what if stuff is pretty tough, because I feel like most what ifs just kind of end the movie. That's just unfortunately what does.
It's like, what if he would have gotten the job with Mr. Sims?
Yeah. Yep.
And then
At the bank?
Yeah, the bank.
Scene?
Yeah.
No, sir, I have no experience, but I'm a big fan of money. I like it. I use it. I have a little. I keep it in a jar on top of my refrigerator. I'd like to put more in that jar. That's where you come in.
I have a little bit of it.
More.
I keep it in a jar.
10 singing lessons for one business card.
Yeah. That's a good scene too. I feel like that scene gets overlooked because of how small it is.
It's true, like you said. I like money. I like spending money. I don't have money.
I'd like to have more.
I use it sometimes.
All right. Well, let's put this movie into the time machine now, huh? Let's bring this to 2024 and let's cast forward. Let's recast this movie with some present day actors, actresses, director. There's no real limit of who, what, when, where, why, and you could pick whoever during this present day, but who are we casting as these characters? So, Jimmy, who did you have for cast members for? Let's just go in order, I guess. So I guess everybody probably casted Robbie. So, Jimmy, who would you cast in the lead as this?
Robbie's tough. Robbie's really tough. Jason Segel comes to mind. I think Jason Segel's another guy that kind of implements his music into movies, like in Forgetting Sarah Marshall with the Dracula musical, which is funny because, side note here, he was writing that Dracula musical while writing Sarah Marshall and put that into his movie. And I think he would be great because there are some parallels to, he is super heartbroken when Sarah Marshall breaks up with him. He does go through that like awkward, weird like montage of sex scenes. He's depressed. He goes to Hawaii, and then he obviously meets Mila Kunis's character, and then kind of becomes happier. And I think Jason Segel would have been a really good role for that. Like who's a great like a Sammy? Like who's a great like wingman? It's so obvious. It's just like maybe Seth Rogen as like the limo driver.
Yeah.
But for George, Jonathan from Queer Eye, the guy that wears the dresses. That would be my favorite for George. Love interest wise, for Drew Barrymore's character Julia. Oh boy, I mean, it'd be great to see like a reunion. Like with like Kristen Bell. I think Kristen Bell would be a really good, like with Jason Segel.
Take that cast from Sarah Marshall and kind of different tale.
They kind of are similar movies, and Kristen Bell's a very down to earth, has that really nice bubbly personality, very sweet, just like Julia's character. So I think that'd be my Julia. As far as Glenn, oh boy. Who would be my Glenn? Who's been like the Hollywood asshole lately? That's going to be a tough one.
I have a couple for that. We can let you. We'll swing around.
Yeah. Let me put a pin on that. Like, I'd like to hear. Absolutely.
So Diaz, who do you got? Because you have a big cast on this thing. So let's hear your cast. I'm excited for this.
We're gonna go down the list. The first time I watched this the other day, this is all I did for the first hour was cast this movie. So let's start at the beginning. Steve Buscemi's role. You got to recast that role for that opening scene. And there's no other than these two comedians, either one of them. Bill Burr or Jim Jeffries will be Steve Belushi's character in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, Bill Burr, really angry toast.
Bill Burr or Jim Jeffries, because of his accent and the way he talks too. He's that Australian comedian that's pretty funny. So that would be Steve Buscemi's role would be Bill Burr. Because I can also see Bill Burr singing It's True at the end of the movie. So he would be my Steve Buscemi. George, I'm going to take your Ronnie Jimmy, my George would have been Jason Segel because something about seeing him dressed up as a woman would have been hilarious. So George would have been Jason Segel in my eyes. I'm surprised no one. You said Sammy. You said Seth Rogen. I see Sammy as Vince Vaughn.
Okay. Yep.
It would
and
be
that
Vince,
swingers action.
Exactly.
Wedding Crashers.
Either Vince Vaughn or the actor that reminds me of you, Nick, Jake Johnson from New Girl.
Oh, yep.
The guy from Jurassic Park and all that. I could see him being Sammy. My Julia, Hilary Duff.
Okay.
Hilary Duff.
That'd be a good comeback for her.
Yep, Hilary Duff. And if I had to, I'll leave it at Hilary Duff. I got a couple other ones, but I don't want to take this other name. I'll say it, and hopefully you guys didn't take it as well. It's either Hilary Duff or Jennifer Lawrence. I think she can do it as well.
She can do a lot of things.
She's beautiful. That girl's beautiful. But Hilary Duff or Jennifer Lawrence is my Julia. My Holly, Amanda Seyfried. I think Siegfried. I always say her name wrong. The girl with the big ass eyes.
Okay.
Karen from Mean Girls. The one that has ESPN.
Her as Holly as the hoe, or Hayden Pelletier. Claire from Heroes could also be Holly.
Claire.
Yeah. Glenn Arrow, baby. Stephen Amell could be Glenn.
I could see that.
Nice.
Or Charlie Hunnam, Jax from Sons of Anarchy.
Yep.
If you wanted to, by the way, and we got to cast the old man from the bar, Kev. This is for you. The old man from the bar, Ed O'Neill, Al Bundy. Al Bundy could be like, you need a prostitute. And I could see that coming out of Al Bundy's voice.
I like those.
But so that would be my cast. And I have a diverse cast, but I'll talk about that after if we were to diversify this. But
yeah. All right. So Kevin, who would you cast in this if we made this today?
Oh, I forgot one. I'm so sorry. Grandma, Stifler's mom.
Oh God, what is her name?
Jennifer
Jimmy,
Coolidge.
You know it.
Her.
Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah, that's Grandma.
We keep Jimmy around for Mr. IMDb. Kevin, what do you got for this movie then?
Yeah.
For the
I picked off the top two characters here, obviously. So for Robbie, I've got Andy Samberg.
Yep. Again, another musically inclined comedian.
And going with an SNL theme here for Julia, Kate McKinnon.
That would be I'd like to see that movie.
Runner-up's kind of too old, probably, if we're casting for current day. But I mean, Jack Black would probably be like the perfect candidate for a wedding singer.
Oh yeah.
I think so too. Silvio, what do you have for recasts?
Let's see. Had a hard time. I mean, finding another Robbie's kind of hard for right now. But I think Zoe Deschanel would do a good Julia.
Yep.
I see that. I definitely see that.
Yeah. For Glenn, I mean, you can throw Chris Pratt back there in his beginnings. He used to be the brat, so I think Chris Pratt will do a good Glenn. And for Sammy, I mean, I think Donna Glover would be a good Sammy. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah.
Donna Glover would crush it as Sammy. I think it would be as hilarious. I don't know. Robbie's just hard. You could get like Ryan Gosling, whatever, but then he'll take the fun out of it. Or like John Krasinski. He has like that goofy face, but then he's like, I don't know. So I do like the Jason Segel option there.
I got a couple. I did the top. I did the couples really. I did Robbie, Julia, Glenn, and Linda. So for Robbie, I would throw, and I'm surprised you didn't take him, Jimmy. Adam Devine, Workaholics.
Yeah,
that would have been a
great
good one.
Little singery kind of guy too. And then my backup is
singery kind of guy.
Yeah, he likes singing every now and then.
He's
not great at it. My backup for Robbie, I actually think it would be funny to see Steven Yeun from Invincible and Beef.
Yeah.
He did really good on those shows. I think he could pull off a good comedy like that. Julia, I have Anna Kendrick. Just that classic girl next door.
Nice.
Glenn, I got two. One's a little bit older. My older Glenn would be George Clooney because he looked a little older in this movie as well too. So I wanted to play with that age difference. Or Rob McElhenney from It's Always Sunny.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I just thought of two Glenns, actually. Now, if I was going to stick with the like Judd Apatow kind of theme, just with like Siegel or Rogen as Sam, I would use Danny McBride as a possible Glenn. But then I thought, like, if I wanted like a classic 80s Wall Street just jerk, Justin Theroux. Remember when he guest starred a little bit as in Parks and Rec as Leslie's boyfriend, the lawyer that everyone thought was super cool, but Ron kind of tells Leslie in so many, like, he's a selfish person. He just wants the stories. He doesn't really care to. Justin Theroux plays a pretty good.
I just realized something. I never gave you guys my Ronnie. How'd I skip Ronnie? My Ronnie's Charlie Day from Sonny's.
Oh, yep.
I can see him, and that would be my Ronnie. And I forgot Linda. Linda would be Kat Dennings from Two Broke Girls and from Thor.
Oh, yeah. WandaVision.
Yep.
And Thor.
Yeah, and Wanda. Yep. She'd be my Linda.
And then let's see who else. Oh, I had one more. I had my Linda. My Linda I have as Sarah Hyland from Modern Family.
Okay.
Did anybody go through and recast a director at all? I'm interested. Jimmy, do you have a director in mind for this?
Probably because it leans on the heavy. It does kind of bounce back a little bit between the comedy and the almost like it kind of at some points does become a dramedy. And there's no one better than that as far as probably Apatow. You look at another collaboration he did with Adam Sandler, Funny People. There are those classic moments of great written humor between the bounce backs between the characters and stuff, especially like 40-Year-Old Virgin. Like, I would probably use him. I mean, it'd probably be a 2.5 hour movie, but I would use him, especially if I'm going to use like Danny McBride as like Bully Glenn, Jason Segel. I would use Apatow.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off you because that's who I picked for my director as well. I know we said he did some early punch-ups on this as well, but I think this theme screams Apatow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
it'd be a little more silly. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not silly. I think it'd be a little more serious. Oh, kind of like the dark humor. With Funny People, I think he would kind of hone in on that, like Robbie's like loneliness and heartbreak, with like little silly bits throughout. But I think overall, he would make a really good film.
Yeah. D, did you have anybody other than Apatow for directing?
I did. The Farley Brothers. If we're going to do slapstick, what can get real, I'd take the Farley Brothers. They're due for a hit. And I think they can do really, time-based comedy.
They're really good at that too.
Yeah, so I would say the Farley Brothers on that.
That'd be a good one.
Like Shallow Hal, they have those sweet moments too. Yeah.
That's a
Kevin,
great
did
movie.
you have a director? Did you have a director for this one, Kevin?
I did, because I was thinking to myself, something comedic with singing, and the first thing that came to mind was the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. That would be a good one too. We got two brothers up for this movie, two different sets of brothers directing this new future movie of ours. Silvio, polish us off here. Do you have another director in mind?
Negative.
Yeah. I just feel like Apatow, like this is like his wheelhouse. I feel like this was maybe because of the punch-ups he did, maybe that altered his trajectory, and he likes playing with these rom-com themes. That's just a big part of his catalog, which is right up his alley.
Yeah, it's funny. I just watched Knocked Up, and it was hilarious. And you could see that relationship right there too. Like he would do a good job.
This is 40,
Yeah.
There's a lot of parallels for sure. Time warp. Where are these characters today? Sort of. We can't really tell you for sure, but from our best inclinations, what happened with these people? Kevin, where do you think the characters from this movie are today?
They own a 80s themed restaurant and lounge where Robbie still performs.
All right. Still gets to keep his musical act a part of his job.
There you go.
Diaz, what do you think?
Julia and Robbie stood in that town. They have a house. Rob has a music store. He teaches lessons to kids.
For meatballs.
He's still, she cooks meatballs because she followed the recipe she got from grandma.
It's called Meatballs Music.
Meatballs Music. They still hang out with Sammy and Holly, who are also together. And Robbie's trying to form a band with his nephews and his kids. His two little nephews are now in Robbie's band. So
very happy ending for everybody. Jimmy, what'd you think?
As far as like in the future and stuff, so I think there's a little more success with Robbie. So one thing that, it alludes to in the movie that he always wanted to be like a rock star and stuff, but his favorite thing, he said he loved writing music. So I think with Julia, giving him that push and that support when she actually when Robbie comes home from the bank and she presented him with that gift of sheet music and I'm an idiot, I think he achieved his dream of being a famous singer or songwriter. I think he wrote songs and extremely successful with that, and they have a good life.
Another happy ending. Sylvia, what do you think? Do you think these characters are still on the happy road?
I think so. I don't think they moved out of where they lived. I think they own a restaurant, and they have meatballs on the menu. Everybody that gets married there, I mean, they get him. I also think Glenn got a bunch of kids that just came back to haunt him, like from different girls. And he's like a proud father of 3, non-proud father of 5. Has like 4 baby mamas. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about par for the course.
He's broke because of alimony now.
Linda, never saw Linda again.
He's in rehab.
Yeah, she could be. So yeah.
I can't. Well, I guess I can believe it. I'm more of the cynical one, so I do not have happy endings on this movie. I just don't. Talk about Glenn. I buy in on the whole multi-kid thing, but I also think he's in jail. I think he gets popped for like insider trading or something like that.
Enron.
Yeah.
A DeLorean full of cocaine.
Yeah, he got popped. He's in jail. I think Julia and Robbie don't make it. I think just based off the fact that Julia went from being on the plane to go get married to the guy that she wasn't going to get married to getting married to Robbie seems a little indecisive in big life decisions. So I don't think it's a happy ending for them. I think they are divorced. I think she might be a little pen pal letter to Glenn. And I think after the wedding singer career becomes a little defunct by the whole DJ aspect, Robbie has written a song about killing himself. I think that might be the route that Robbie takes. I don't know.
Tears running constantly. Oh, somebody kill me, please. Somebody kill me, please. I'm on my knees. Pretty, please. Kill me.
It's a pretty dark song. I don't care that he was listening to The Cure. He's got some demons, so I don't either that or he's like, yeah, just put a bullet in my head. Like, he might be goner. I don't know. If Julia leaves him, if he's
lost Linda and Julia.
Yeah, and Linda's just on the road, just being a groupie for whichever, probably at this point like Green Day or Blink-182 or one of those bands that were popular during her day and are just having that come up. And I don't know. I think Robbie's I don't think it's a happy ending.
It's unstable.
Yeah, the relationship wasn't built on a, extreme foundation. So I think it's rocky. I think the dominoes fall for them. Prequel, sequel, remake, spinoff, or pass? What are we doing with this movie? Should any of these happen? Jimmy, what do you think?
No, I think it's simple for what it is. I think it's a great late 90s comedy set in the 80s. I mean, like low budget kind of film. So I wouldn't touch a thing. I would leave it.
Yeah. Diaz?
You can redo it. Just move it up a decade. Make it ultra 90s. Stupid baggy clothes, backward hats. Like literally make it a stupid 90s movie. You can easily redo this. Regular cast the way it is, diversify it, doesn't matter. You can take this concept and just move it up a decade. Make a 90s nostalgic comedy. Do the same thing.
There's legs there. Yeah. Kevin, what do you think?
I think there's nothing screaming for like a sequel or a prequel. I could see maybe a spin-off of John Lovett's Jimmy Moore character where he goes off and has his own adventures, kind of unrelated, but a spin-off.
Yeah, he's sort of the unsung hero of this one. Sylvia, what do you think? We touching this movie?
No, I mean, I think to your point earlier, I mean, nobody's going to go watch The Wedding Singer 2. Like, there's not a thing. But maybe the DJ player, the wedding DJ.
That's what I'm saying. The 90s do it. The 90s and do it. The wedding DJ.
Yeah, the wedding. Yeah. So, but no. And a prequel, I mean, I don't even know what you feed off. What do people used to do?
Robbie in the band.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It'd be so funny to make a movie of like, the 1500s people getting married. Like, what do they celebrate with like a bunch of like drums? And that's so funny.
Yeah, this movie doesn't scream, that it needs to be brought up with anything really. I don't think a sequel works. I don't think there's a spinoff. I'm just going to pass. I'm going to let this movie stand where it is, as it is. I don't think there's really necessary adjustments that need to be made. There could be fun stuff. We casted this in present day time and that would be fun and all, but I think just for what it is, I kind of like where it's at. The Running Solo Award. Script, direction, acting, or other. What made this movie for you? So, Jimmy, what won this award? What made this movie so spectacular?
The timepiece. I love the 80s. I love the music. I thought the soundtrack was great. I wouldn't change a thing with it. That's my solo award, I guess I would say, is probably the soundtrack.
That's good. Diaz, what took it home?
The screenwriting of Robbie Hart's character. This was the first time you saw a different side of Adam Sandler. This director, this screenwriter looked at Adam Sandler and said, "You're more than just a comedian." And I think that showed, and he is. He's a great actor. He's not just a great comedian. He's a great actor. So my running solo would be Adam Sandler's performance on this. He gave you a little taste of what you know, but showed you a whole different side of himself.
It is good because it is that comedy, but he's not really super over the top comedic with it. So it's a nice blend. Mm-hmm. Kevin, what made this movie for you?
I probably have to agree. It's the soundtrack. I mean, it plays hand in hand with the setting, the fashion, how they captured the 80s, but you couldn't have done it without the music, the soundtrack, the quintessential pop hits of the 80s. And they picked a great selection of songs that really made you relive the 80s. So I think it has to be the soundtrack as well.
Yeah. Silvio, what is it for you?
Yeah, I make sure both. The soundtracks are they're just classic after classic after classic, and maybe back then they were not classics, but right now they're just awesome. I think they even do it too much. I don't know if you remember that scene when she's listening to Love Balloons. It's like a 3-second transition shot, and it's maybe unnecessary, but they throw that, they just throw it in there. Just all the songs, bring them in. But I think it makes for a really good movie, and yeah, Adam Sandler does take it home. There's that innocence when he plays these characters right in his universe or whatever, and it just, you get drawn to it. It was good.
Yeah, I gave it to the secondary characters. All the comedy came from them for the most part, but Sammy, George, Rosie, Dave, Jimmy Moore, the Flock of Seagulls guy at the end, those secondary characters.
Table 9.
Yeah, the Table 9 mutants, the lady with sideburns, Fatso over there. The secondary characters for me, just
Bride's father.
When I think of this movie, the funny moments, they are all of them. The Steve Buscemi character, it just, oh God, George with his stupid trombone and
the clarinet and
the clarinet. Oh,
Holiday.
Yeah.
You gotta come back in. They're turning on George here.
You suck.
You suck.
Well, he only has one song. He's got to learn more songs.
God, but the secondary characters for me just nailed it. But yeah, that's where that kind of takes it home for me. So I guess before we jump out, let's just kind of stack this thing up a little bit. You don't have to have rankings or anything in particular, but let's just talk Adam Sandler movies for a second before we jump off. And where does this fall in the list of Sandler movies? What's above it? What's below it? Just a quick little rundown, I guess, of where this lands for you in the Sandler verse. Jimmy, where is this for you?
This has always been a number one of mine. This, Little Nicky, and I'd probably say Happy Gilmore would be my 3. But this has always been just a great Adam Sandler, just a fun comedy.
Yeah. Diaz, where's it stack up for you?
It's in my top. It's
tough.
He has a lot of movies. It's in my top 5 Adam Sandler movies, and it's just I don't know. I gotta watch them side by side. It might be his best romantic comedy, but it's 50 First Dates is a good movie. It's either 1 or 2, and I don't know. It's in my top 5.
Yeah. Kevin, is this in your top 5, top 3? Where is it?
It's almost 2 different categories for him, right? If it's the rom-com, 50 First Dates probably beats this one.
I agree.
If you want Adam Sandler, his goofy, his character, The Waterboy.
Yeah,
so
that's a good one too.
Guys,
I guess it's number 2 behind 50 First Dates, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I just forgot about? I just forgot about a great underrated Adam Sandler film that no one really ever talks about. He is one of the main characters. He's not the main character, but have you guys ever seen Airheads with Brendan Fraser and Steve Buscemi, where they hold the radio station hostage?
Oh yeah,
dude, I'm gonna stab you in my head with what? My dick.
I completely forgot about Airheads. What a great film. That's a great I love that movie.
Because that's so early. I mean, that's 94. That's right after, that's before Madison and everything like that. So that's an early one. Sylvia, where does this stack up for you in the Sandler verse?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I have enough critical knowledge of the other ones. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and if this is the first one that made him over the $100 million, right? I mean, it definitely was. It was a killer movie, so I got to be at the top for me.
Yeah, it's tough for me. I grew up on this style. Happy Gilmore, I think, is always going to be my number one. I rewatched that VHS so much that it didn't work anymore. I love Billy Madison. It's in there. I think it's in the top 5 for sure. This isn't a joke, but I love, and I go back to rewatch. It's his newest thing, or one of his newest things, but Hubie Halloween on Netflix is.
I haven't seen that. Is that good, Nick?
It is. It is just dumb Adam Sandler at his finest. It is. Okay. It's just a culmination of like all of his previous kind of characters and casts, and Buscemi's in it. And a funny little tie-in, I guess, with this movie and those ones is in Hubie Halloween and in Hotel Transylvania. I believe Steve Buscemi plays a werewolf style character or a werewolf, and then in this movie, when he's drunk and he drops his glass outside, he does the as he's falling.
Well, to piggyback off Hubie Halloween, that's him and Julie Bowen's second movie together, or Bowen's second movie together. Because remember, she's the love interest in Happy Gilmore. And Julie Bowen's the mom from Modern Family, Claire Dunphy.
I forgot that's her.
Yeah, that's Julie Bowen.
You are 100% correct. That is Claire Dunphy.
Yeah, because I remember her from Hubie. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's Claire. But I did not remember that was her in Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, that's a very young Julie Bowen.
I mean, yeah, that's 96. So that was older. But it stacks up there. It's in the top 5 for sure. I don't know which order, but it's up there. It's definitely one of the more forgotten ones that I haven't gone back to too often, but now that I have, it's up there for sure. Well, that about wraps it up for this week on the Popcorn Time Machine. Did anybody have any final thoughts on this movie before we put it back into the time machine, send it back to the year that it belongs at 98, and then we will kind of leave it there for history? Any thoughts, Jimmy? Any last moments on this thing?
No, I've got nothing. I think we wrapped up. We talked about pretty much everything. I think it's a fun film. It's a really fun film.
All right, Diaz. Anything else you need to say before we put this thing back?
Listen, it's a great movie, and we all know it's true. Ha 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 ha.
Kevin, anything else?
I would just like to say,
I said hip hop, a hippie to the hip hip hop. You don't stop the rock to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie the beat.
Woo!
Still, it's tough to follow that one right there. But anything for you, or are we putting this thing back into the machine and sending it back to 98?
Nope. Like and subscribe if you can. 98.
There it is. All right. Well, until next time, this is the Popcorn Time Machine, and we will be bringing you back another classic from the 80s or 90s next time. So be sure to follow us on our socials. Again, that's Instagram. You can find us at Popcorn Time Machine Pod, or if you want to follow us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like all that stuff over there. Popcorn Time Machine Podcast, and we will see you all next time.
Good wedding singer.